How are you all? Brace yourself. Okay, not really. I think we're okay. I had a feeling this was going to happen, and it did. So earlier today, Kenosha or Wisconsin declared a state of emergency around the Kenosha area. They ordered 500 National Guard to come and make sure everything's safe. And why did they do that? Because they released some information today. The district attorney of Kenosha, Michael Gravely, gave a 2-hour press conference today in which he explained why no officer will be charged in the Jacob Blake case. So we'll get to that, but first we'll do a little bit of backstory. If you don't remember, I'm sure you do, it was huge. Jacob Blake was shot by police officers 7 times back in, I believe it was August. And this sparked 3 nights in a row of just insane riots in Kenosha. A lot of businesses were burnt down. We also had the whole Kyle Rittenhouse situation. A few people passed away. These were pretty explosive and intense riots, some of the most intense that we've seen all summer, and we've seen lots of them. So that happened. And today it was announced that the officers involved in the shooting are not going to be charged. It was also announced that Jacob Blake will not be charged with anything, but I listened to the entire press conference, and I'll give you some cliff notes from that because I actually learned a few things that I didn't know before, and I learned those from the press conference. So we'll talk about that. I'll show you a little bit of the media reaction. We'll look at a short video from the DA giving the press conference where he talks about how exhaustive this whole investigation was and that they did a very thorough and incredibly exhaustive investigation to determine that they are not going to be charged with anything. So we'll get into that. But first, the backstory with Jacob. So we've talked about this before, and the backstory with Jacob is a woman called the police on Jacob. It was a domestic dispute, and she complained that he stole her keys, that he has stolen her cars before in the past and has crashed them. So she was scared that he was going to leave her house with her car and go crash it. And the reason I know this is because in that 2-hour press conference, which I will link below, I encourage you to watch the whole thing if you're interested in this story, or even if you don't agree with anything I'm saying, just go and watch it for yourself and come up with your own conclusion, because it is, as you can imagine, still polarizing. It's hard to imagine why after listening to everything, but we know how our media likes to spin it, and we'll look at some of that towards the end. So she was afraid. So in this call, she was afraid that he was going to take her car and crash it. She did mention he wasn't supposed to be there. It was her kid's birthday, so she did allow him to come over for a few hours to see their, I guess they have a mutual kid, excuse me. It's their kid's birthday, so she did allow him to come over for a few hours to see the kids. He ended up taking her keys. She was afraid that he was going to crash her car, as he has done before. He actually, he technically was not supposed to be there. She has a sexual assault charge against him. So this is why she called the police. They came out. When they arrived, Jacob did not listen to any directive by the police. He was tased 2 times. They tried to stun him once, and he got into a physical altercation in which they hit the floor with an officer. So this went on for, I believe, about 5 minutes until finally Jacob Blake leaned into the car where there were kids in the back seat, picked up a knife, and that is where police shot him. And some new information that I learned from this press conference is that one of her kid was in the back of that car too, and she was pleading to the police, "My kid, my car." So the police, in their mind, they're like, wow, he's stolen her cars in the past and he's crashed them, and he has a kid in the back, so they're thinking he might be kidnapping this kid and putting the kid and the others in danger. So that's when police opened fire. Another thing I learned in this press conference is that Jacob Blake had a prior occasion in which he resisted arrest and pulled a knife on police officers. It happened in 2010, and I'm just reading from my notes. Again, this is all in the press conference, but it says he pulled a knife. So he was resisting arrest. He pulled a knife out of his waistband with his left hand, which apparently, according to police, is exactly what happened. the day that he was shot. So again, according to police, the officers stood back, they pulled out their weapons, and they told him to stand down. He slashed at officers, he slashed towards officers, he started walking towards them even while they had their weapons out, still slashing in the air in a threatening manner towards the police officers, and he's saying, "Come out and shoot me," again while waving the knife. So they've had previous instances with Jacob Blake and where he pulled out a knife and resisted arrest with them. Let's look at a little bit of the press conference where the DA is talking about how he came to this decision. I'll give you my opinion and then we'll look at some of the media responses. It's pretty interesting. All right, here's the DA.
What I do bring to this decision is almost 3 decades as a prosecutor making charging decisions, which is what I'm being asked to do today. I have my entire professional life tried to keep this community safe. Tens of thousands of times I have looked at sets of facts and had to make a decision whether there were sufficient facts that fit the law that would allow the prosecutors, including myself, to be able to prove a case to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. I have personally taken more than 250 cases to jury trial. So I think I can confidently say where I do have authentic experience and expertise is in an ability to talk to a community and to all of you about what evidence would be admissible in a jury trial if anyone was charged, and whether that evidence would be sufficient to get a conviction. I also have a complete and absolute commitment that that charging decision must be made independent of outside forces or the political winds that swirl about in this year and this era that we're in. It's an absolute commitment I have. And I hope that in these troubled times that our community and maybe America has perhaps rarely been in greater need of a neutral, professional person to referee these disputes. And in this situation, an exhaustive investigation was done. There's more than 40 hours of squad video. There's hundreds of pages of electronic information. There are almost 200 separate law enforcement reports and almost 1,500 individual pages.
And keep in mind, too, at the time that police arrived to the domestic dispute, Jacob Blake did have active sexual assault charges on him from that individual, which I believe they were dropped in early November, but they were there at the moment of this. And I'm not surprised by this. I had a feeling no one was going to get charged. I don't know a lot about the law, but I know a little bit, and it seems like the officers pretty much exhausted everything before it got to that point. He had many opportunities to do the right thing. They started giving him directives. He didn't listen. They got into a physical altercation. They tried to tase him 2 times. They tried to stun gun him. He still got away. The police was holding the back of his shirt. He was leaning into the car, and that's when he pulled out the knife. And you also have to understand there were children in the back, and in the police mind, is he going to leave with these kids? Also, keep in mind, in the 911 call, which they play in the press conference, the woman who called the police on him was afraid that he was going to steal her car and crash it, because she said he has done that before in the past, and this is someone that has a bit of a record. So I had a feeling this was going to happen. The whole thing is unfortunate. He shouldn't have been acting like that in the first place. He shouldn't have been acting like that towards her. He shouldn't have taken her keys. She shouldn't have had to call the cops. He should have listened to the cops, and none of this would have happened. It stinks. But keep in mind, too, they're also not charging him. So that's my opinion. I'm not surprised by this. I think they made the right choice. Let me know what you think. I don't see any evidence of race having to do with anything. Again, let me know what you think. There were some activists who gave a press conference after this was announced, and they were in Kenosha. It looked like there were a few protesters, but they seemed mostly peaceful, which I'm totally cool with. I don't care if I agree with you or not. You have a right to protest. do your thing. Don't infringe on my rights. I won't infringe on yours. They still want justice. I don't know exactly what they're looking for. And then the governor, Tony Evers, had this to say. So let me know what your thoughts on this, what on this is as well. He says, this is from his Twitter. He says, over the past year, our state and county have witnessed a movement, one that echoes hundreds of years of movements that have come before it, demanding justice, equity, and peace for Black lives. What is just as clear today as it has been is we have failed to deliver on these promises, both as a state and as a country. Jacob Blake's life has forever been changed, and his kids witnessed violence no kid should ever see, experienced trauma no kid should ever endure, all while the world watched. And yet, when presented the opportunity to rise to this moment and this movement and take action to provide meaningful, common sense reform to enhance accountability and promote transparency and policing, and our state elected officials took no action. Today's decision is further evidence that our work is not done. We must work each day in earnest toward a more just, more fair, and more equitable state and country, and to combat the racism experienced by Black Wisconsinites. I hope for peace and justice for Jacob, his family, and the entire Kenosha community. I reaffirm my commitment to action to build a more just and equitable state for every Wisconsinite, and I ask those who will exercise their right to assemble tonight, please do so peacefully and safety. Okay, again, I'm all for people assembling, but my question to people like Tony and people that are not happy with this decision, at what point is Jacob accountable? At what point is he accountable? In Tony Evers' response, I hear him say that police and the DA had a chance to rise to the occasion. Well, it appears as though Jacob had a chance to rise to the occasion as well. The mother invited him to come, even though he wasn't supposed to be there. She was giving him the opportunity to be with one of his kids on his kid's birthday, and he didn't rise to the occasion. He stole her keys and was attempting to get in her car. So it doesn't seem like he rose to the occasion. At what point do we hold adults accountable? We know right from wrong. Okay, I'm sure Jacob knows right from wrong. I'm sure he's a smart individual. He might not be making the right decisions all the time, but I'm sure he's a very smart and very capable individual. So at what point is he accountable? We're taking all the accountability off the criminal, not thinking about the kids. There is a woman and a child. There's a woman and several children involved in this. And the first person responsible for those kids is the parent. It's up to the parent to act responsibly around their kids, to not put them in that situation. I'm going to show you one more thing and then I'm done. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. This is nothing new to any of us. It surprises me every time, but it doesn't surprise me. It surprises me because I will watch the entire press conference and then look at some of the way that some media publications are spinning this, and it's just mind-blowing. So this is Ryan Savarda. It looks like he is a reporter with the Daily Wire, and he retweeted this. He put together a little fun graphic for us so we could see how some of these publications are spinning what just happened. Keep in mind, this came out after the press conference, and in the press conference, not only did they say that Jacob Blake had the knife on him, Jacob Blake admitted himself, well, Jacob Blake's not in the press conference, but you know what I'm saying. Jacob Blake admitted to them also that he had the knife. So he admitted it himself, the cops are saying it, and then this is how the media spins it. So he put this together, and he said, District Attorney Michael Gravely, it is absolutely incontrovertible. Did I say that right? That Jacob Blake was armed with a knife during this encounter. And have the Washington Post right here, and a few blue checkmark people, unarmed, 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 unarmed. Maybe they didn't watch it. Maybe they missed that part. I don't know. Hold on, that's the Washington Post. Who does this person work for? And then we have Spectrum Bay News, unarmed. ABC 7, Nicole Gomez, unarmed. BuzzFeed, unarmed. So that's our news. And if I have any piece of advice for that, one of the things that sort of helped me on my red pill journey was, you know, if there was a press conference, I went and found the full press conference, or I went to C-SPAN, or I pursued the full speech, or the full sit down, or whatever it is, and then I made my decision and I listened to other people's takes on it. But yeah, this is our media right now and how they're covering it. I don't know, maybe they're not doing their jobs, maybe selective hearing, but let me know what you think about everything. Do you agree with their decision to not charge him? Do you disagree? Let me know, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.